And for fractions, the expanded form looks more like separating the whole number from the fraction. First, I'm going to draw in my box. And I'm going to write my partial product on the side. And now I know I need to break apart my numbers. So I'm going to start with 4 2/3. And I know my whole number is the 4, and my fraction part is the 2/3. So I'm going to break up my box into 2 pieces and put my whole number of 4 on one side and the fraction on the other side. I'm now going to look at the other number in my multiplication problem, and it's 7. It's a whole number. It's a single-digit whole number. So I'm just going to put the 7 on the side. And that's step 1, breaking it apart. Step 2, I just need to write my multiplication again. And just like before, all I have to do is bring the number from the top and the side over. So I know this is going to be 4 times 7. What do you think this second box is going to say? Did you say that you're going to bring the 2/3 and the 7 together? So it looks like this. 2/3 times 7. If so, you're right. And that would be step 2. Step 3 and 4 is multiply. And I know that multiply means I'm going to have to do 4 times 7, which is 28. How do I multiply my fraction and a whole number? Well, don't forget, when you have a whole number, you have to take it and put a 1 underneath it. And now you can just multiply across like normal. So 2 times 7 is 14. 3 times 1 is 3. Now, I don't love to work with improper fractions, so I'm going to change that to a mixed number. And I do that by dividing. So I take my 3 and I divide it by my 14. And I know 3 can't go into 1, so I know that's going to be a 0. But I know that 3 can go into 14 4 times. So I'm going to put my 4 up there. Then I know 4 times 3 is 12. And my next step is to subtract. 4 minus 2 is 2. And now I know my mixed number is going to be 4 and 2/3. So my answer here would be 4 and 2/3. And that's step 3. And we haven't done step 4, so we need to add in here 28 4 2/3. Now, my last step is just to add my products together. And if you noticed, I lined them up so that my whole numbers were on top of each other, and if there were fractions, they were on top of each other. And so all I have to do is add 28 plus 4 and 2/3. And what that equals is, well, I know that I automatically can just bring my 2/3 down. And 29, 30, 31, 32. So my answer would be 32 and 2/3. All right, for this last problem, there is a lot of work that goes into it. Before moving on, make sure you understand the first 3 examples. Then move on to this one. There are way more steps because you're now going to have to be adding and multiplying mixed numbers, and sometimes even changing improper fractions to mixed numbers. Step 1, make my box and break apart these numbers. Here's my box, and I'm going to write my partial product on the side. 1 3/4 times 2 and 1/3. Okay, now looking at my numbers, I have to start with 1 3/4. Again, I know I have to separate the whole number from the fraction. So I will break this into 2 boxes, and my whole number will go on one side, and my fraction will go on the other side. What am I going to do to 2 and 1/3? What will that look like? Go ahead and take your time to do that now. Okay, did you say to break it apart into 2 again and do the whole number 2 in one box and 1/3 in the other box? Nice work. And that's step 1. Step 2 is to write down our multiplication problems. So I know what's going to go into this box. Did you say 1 times 2? If so, nice work. How about this box? Did you say 3/4 times 2? What goes in this box? Did you say 1 times 1/3? And how about the last box? What goes there? Did you say 3/4 times 1/3? If so, nice job. That's step 2. So far, all of our steps are the same. Now let's try to multiply the numbers and add them into our partial products. First, 1 times 2 is 2, right. 3/4 times 2. What do we have to do to multiply this one? That's right. When you multiply this one, you have to put a 1 under the 2, under your whole number. So it's going to look like 3/4 times 2 over 1. And then I can just multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. Now this is an improper fraction, so I'm going to change it into a mixed number by dividing 4, 6. I know 4 because I use my Does McDonald's Sell Burgers raw strategy. And divide, 4 can go into 6 one time. Multiply, 4 times 1 is 4. Then I subtract 6 minus 4, which is 2. Nothing to bring down. And so I know that my answer is going to be 1 2/4. So I'm going to add that in right over here. 1 2/4. Now let's look at our next problem. 1 times 1/3. Go ahead and try to solve this one now. Did you remember to put a 1 under your whole number? If so, nice work. We would do 1 over 1 times 1/3, which equals 1/3. And finally, 3/4 times 1/3. Go ahead and solve that now. All right, did you say 3 times 1 is 3 and 4 times 3 is 12? If so, you got 3/12, and that's the correct answer. All right. So far, so good, huh? Except for we forgot one thing. We forgot to put our numbers into our partial product. So let's do that now. Take your 2 and put it here. 1 2/4. Here. Make sure you put your whole numbers on top of each other and your fractions on top of each other. 1/3 here and 3/12. 12, whoops, right there. Because now, step 5 tells us we add those together. But there's a lot there, and I don't like to work with more than too many fractions at once. So let's take this step by step. What I'm going to do is start by just doing these two, and then I'll add these two together. First, I'm going to add 2 plus 1 2/4. And that one's pretty easy because I know that's going to become 3 2/4. I just add my whole numbers up. 2 plus 1 is 3 and 2/4. So that equals 3 2/4. Now I've got to do this one. 1/3 plus 3/12. And these don't have the same denominator. And I know that when I add fractions, they have to have the same denominator. So I'm going to find my common denominator now. Go ahead and see if you can figure it out. Did you say 12? That's right. They will both have the common denominator of 12. 12 and 12 are already the same, so I don't have to change anything to this fraction. However, my 1/3 is going to have to change into an equivalent fraction. So, how many times can 3 go into 12? Did you say 4 times? That's right. So 4 times 1 is 4. And now I can add them normally. I know my denominator is going to stay 12, and I just have to add 4 plus 3, which is 7. And I'm going to add that over here. And now I have one more step. I just have to add these two answers together to know the total of my 4 products. Again, I'm going to write it on this side so we can see all our steps because they don't have the same denominator. So 3 2/4 plus 7/12. Okay, so first I have to find the common denominator. Go ahead and figure that out now. If you said 12, you're right. I'm going to write those down now. Now, 7/12 already has that denominator, so I'm just going to keep that fraction the same. How do I have to change 2/4? That's right. 4 can go into 12 3 times, so I have to multiply 3 times my 2, which gives me 6. And now I can add my fractions as normal. I always start with my whole number, which is 3. And then I can keep my denominator, which is 12, and I just have to add the 6 plus the 7, which is 13. So my answer is going to be 3 13/12, which is the answer to our problem right here. 3 13/12. Good luck, and if you need to, look back here for help with the problems.